Hi, this is Leah with Handwoven by Leah, and today I'm going to show you a video tutorial on how to do the foundation piecing on my staircase quilt. So for starters, what we're going to do is take this piece of paper and and this is included in the pattern, you're going to put this in your copy machine and copy it onto freezer paper. Freezer paper has a shiny back to it, and the front side's a matte finish. After you do that, then you want to cut it to size all the way around where the lines were, and then you're ready to go. So to get started, we're going to take our first piece, and the sizes that are listed on here are the sizes of material that you need for each piece. And we're going to start with number 1 and then go to number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So your first piece, you're going to put it wrong side to the shiny side of the paper. And you want to put it underneath number 1. And then you want to hold it up to the light and make sure that you've got 1/4 of an inch on all of your margins where the lines are drawn for your 1. Once you have that, and you need a hot iron, no steam, just hot iron, we're going to lay it down and we're going to iron over that one section. And I iron over the lines because I want it stuck down good. Once you think that's stuck down good, and you can use this freezer paper. The reason why I like doing foundation piecing with freezer paper is because we're not actually sewing onto the paper, so you can reuse this paper probably about 5 or 6 times before the stickiness of the shiny side is gone and you have to get a new piece. Right, so that's stuck on there now. And then what we're going to do is we're going to fold it on this line for number 2. So we're going to fold this back on that line and then flip that fabric back. And now we want to cut this off. We're going to take a ruler and we want 1/4 of an inch of fabric left next to the paper. So you're going to take your ruler, measure over 1/4 of an inch, and then you're going to cut this off right there. So let me cut that off real quick. Okay, so then it looks like this. We have a little bit of fabric there, 1/4 of an inch next to this line on the paper. Next thing we're going to do is take your piece of fabric for number 2, and it's going to be right side up, and you want to make sure that you allow enough room that you're going to get all of your margins in here for where number 2 is. So I like to open it up, just kind of take a guess at where I need to be, and then I move it, straighten it up and move it onto here. And then I look here and I'm a little too high and I've got some room here, so I'm going to move it down a little bit. That looks about right. And now until you get the feel of it, I've had, you know, when I first started doing this, I had to, until I got used to where I need to put each piece of fabric, I would have to rip it out and do it again because I didn't have it lined up right. So then what you're going to do is you're going to take this over to your sewing machine and you're going to sew right next to your paper. And I don't back tack because we're going to be cutting things off, and so I don't back tack, and you know, mainly in case I need to take it off. It just makes it easier. So I don't think you can see. So I'm over at the sewing machine and I'm just going to sew right next to that paper. All right, and then we're going to open it back up. What I like to do is I open the paper up, turn it over, and then I open the fabric up, and then I crease this line here where it's joined. And don't iron over onto your sticky paper because it'll make a mess on your iron. And then turn it over and iron that whole section number 2 down so the fabric's stuck. And then we're going to move on to number 3 and do the same thing. So we're going to fold back on this line here. We're going to fold this back, lay your fabric down, and then we're going to cut, leaving 1/4 of an inch of fabric here. So let me cut that real quick. I know you can't see me cut it, but I'm just putting my 1/4 inch mark on the line, and then I'm cutting. Okay, so we have that line cut. So now we're going to take our next piece of fabric and line that up. Again, right side up. We're going to line that up with the 3. Again, I want to make sure I have plenty of room to get all of my 3 in there. So I'm going to line it up about so. And on a couple of these pieces, you may notice that some of the edges might not be covered. That might be because, so before you take it apart, look and see if it's going to get covered by your next section. Because there's 2 places where I always find that it doesn't cover, but it's covered by the next section. So again, we're going to sew right next to the line. Unfold the paper, turn it over, unfold your fabric, and then I'm going to iron that seam that I just created. I'm going to iron that seam, and I just do it this way so that if I flipped it over, I might get it bunched up or something, and I don't want to do that. So I just do it on that side first, and then I flip it over, and then I'm going to iron all over the 3 to get that stuck down. And then we move on to 4, and then 5, and then 6. So for 4, we're going to fold on this line here. You're going to fold that back, open your fabric up. We'll cut that off, line your fabric up, and sew. And then for 5, you're going to fold back on this line here. We'd fold that back, and this is going to have 4 on there. I just haven't done it yet. And then you're going to cut that off, sew it, and then unfold it and press it like before. And then for 6, you're going to fold it back on this line here and do the same thing. You'd cut your fabric 1/4 of an inch away from the paper, sew it, and then open it all up and press it. So I'm going to finish doing that, and then I will be right back. Okay, I'm back. One thing I wanted to show you guys. See right here where there's this piece of paper in this little triangle right there that hasn't been covered by fabric? That's what I was talking about, that's going to be covered by the next piece of fabric we sew on. So basically, you want to make sure that once you get done, you don't see any paper when you have it laid out like this, right side, your fabric right side up. That little piece sticking out right there doesn't mean I need to take this piece off and do it again and move it. It's going to be covered when I put the last piece on. So I'll be right back. Okay, so I have all my pieces of fabric on. And remember that little corner that I told you about? I'm not even sure where it was now, but it's all covered. When I have it up, right side up like this, you can't see any paper in any of my opening, any of these areas. You don't see any paper, and that's what you want. If you don't see any paper, you're good to go. So the next thing we're going to do is to flip it over, and I want you to cut out, I want you to take your ruler and line it up with the very edge of this paper. And I want you to cut the fabric off. I want you to do that all the way around. Okay, so I've cut out all the edges right up to the edge of the paper. So now what we want to do is to peel the fabric off of the paper. Oh, and I caught my seam in the paper, which is okay. Sometimes that happens. Just pull it off. Okay, so this is an 8.5 by 8.5 square, and that's too big, so I need to cut it down. I want this to be an 8-inch square. The easiest way to do that, I've got my handy big square ruler here. I'm going to put this corner of the fabric on the 8, and that edge of the fabric is lining up with the 8, and then this edge of the fabric will line up with the 8. And once you have that lined up, you're going to cut this edge off over here, and then I have my handy rotating cutting board here, and then I'm going to cut off this other side. So now I have an 8 by 8 square. The next thing we're going to do, oh, just a minute, I can't reach. Okay, the next thing that we're going to do is to cut this into 4 4-inch squares. So I'm going to put my 4 mark on one edge, but my ruler up next to it, and then I lay my ruler here to keep this half of the fabric in place, because I'm going to keep it all together and turn it and do one more cut. So I'm going to cut that, and then I'm going to gently pick up this ruler and gently pick up this ruler so I don't move the fabric. I'm going to rotate my board. I'm going to line the 4 up on this edge of the fabric. Butt my ruler up against it, and then cut again. And so now I have 4 4-inch squares, and I'm ready to start over and make a whole nother square using my freezer paper. I hope this video was helpful for you guys, and have a wonderful day and happy piecing. Bye.